Hello there and welcome to another edition of Robot Unveiled. This time we're going to have a look at Series 1 Heat F / the Grand Final because it's 2-in-1 in this episode. I hope you enjoy. T.R.A.C.I.E became the only Grand Finalist in the series not to complete the gauntlet. Eubank the Mouse was the third stock robot to appear in the series, after Grunt and WYSIWYG respectively. Like its counterparts, it progressed further than an actual competitor in this heat, eliminating Elvis by virtue of completing the gauntlet. The Grand Final of Series 1 was the only one to feature a non-heavyweight robot. Of the 6 competitors, 4 of them would make repeat Grand Final appearances in the future: Roadblock, Team Cassius, Team Chaos and Cold Fusion. The Grand Final was one of only 2 UK battles to whittle down from 6 competitors to only 2, the other being the middleweight melee of Extreme 1. The Grand Final is the only battle in Robot Wars to not feature a house robot. Of the 6 competitors, only 2 featured a moving weapon, Cyclops and Roadblock, with Body Hammer still using a spike rather than the hammer. Neither used their respective weapons once during the battle. T.R.A.C.I.E became the first robot to retire after a Grand Final and not return to Robot Wars. Under the original weight class limits, Eubank the Mouse was the only lightweight competitor to appear in Series 1. Eubank the Mouse was one of only 2 robots to finish top of the leaderboard in the gauntlet, then go out in the trial stage of their heats, the other being Tantrum in Heat D of Series 2. Eubank the Mouse was one of only 2 Robot Wars competitors to be briefly used as house robots as a result of its original incarnation's appearance in the 1995 UK Open competition. The other was Razor, which was designated as one during the 2001 Wembley Arena live event, itself serving as part of a largely untelevised Series 5 qualifiers. Though Eubank would never return, it was always featured in the pits as well as attending the Series 2 rehearsals. Throughout Series 2 you can even spot Eubank the Mouse in the background several times, and during filming in later seasons Eubank was always on display. Prince of Darkness is the only robot to be completed during the main competition, having been repainted and fitted with spikes before its semi-final battle. Prince of Darkness was the first robot to have its tyres punctured by another robot's weapon. Though the team would never return, Matthew Wilson of Prince of Darkness would compete in the Ant-Weight World Series with Triumphant. Joe Thomas, best known for his portrayal of Simon Cooper in The In-Betweeners, was one of the students who helped build T.R.A.C.I.E. Though T.R.A.C.I.E. never returned, the team attempted to enter Series 3 with a new robot called Sharon, but was unselected. T.R.A.C.I.E. was the first invertible robot to appear on Robot Wars, and the only invertible robot to compete in the first Wars. Cyclops was the only robot to lose a Grand Final due to a breakdown or mechanical technical issue. Robot the Bruce and Hypnodisc were overturned, T.R.A.C.I.E. and Cunning Plan got stuck together, Cassius was pitted, Eruption was immobilized through damage inflicted by Carbide, and all the others lost on judge's decision. This is the only time Team Cassius does not lose due to pitting. Robot the Bruce is the only UK heavyweight robot without a weapon to reach a Grand Final. The Dutch heavyweight T.R.A.C.I.E, competing in the German Championship, and UK featherweight Cunning Plan were the only other weaponless robots to reach a Grand Final. Body Hammer is the first ever runners-up. The team's successor, Pussycat, will become runners-up in Series 4, where coincidentally they fought a battle with Team Chaos in the Grand Final. Body Hammer is one of only 4 Grand Finalists to have an even win-loss ratio, alongside Nuts, Rosie the Riveter, the Revolutionist, and T.R.A.C.I.E. And that is it for today. The Series 1 Heat F / the Grand Final. Now, Heat F is rather infamous for being, for showing Jeremy Clarkson that's probably his most cruelest is towards Prince of Darkness, in particular the way he insults that robot and its team. Prince of Darkness actually did quite well in the competition and it got its tyre deflated by T.R.A.C.I.E. The heat itself is your run-of-the-mill heat. There's not really much to stress about. T.R.A.C.I.E. is probably the weakest of the Grand Finalists. It didn't really impress all that much until it got to the arena stage when it actually did some stuff, and it's probably that reason why T.R.A.C.I.E. or its successor Sharon never returned. As for everything else, the Grand Final itself is literally just attached to the end of this episode. I don't know why they never did like a separate episode for the Grand Final, like an actual, like, even if it was just this run-of-the-mill gauntlet trial, then the battles, it would have been a little bit more interesting, but instead they just attached the Grand Final battle literally just at the end of this heat. The Grand Final itself being probably the best part about this episode, really. It's a unique Grand Final. It's basically just a rumble with all the robots just smashing into each other. One robot comes out supreme, and we see, you know, obviously we see them all the different weight classes, see how they interact with each other. it's it's not the greatest grand final in the world, obviously, because it is Series 1. But there is some charm to it, you know, the way Cunning Plan immobilizes T.R.A.C.I.E straight away. Cyclops, which, you know, technically has the best weapons in this grand final, does probably the worst. Its chain falls off almost immediately and it just dies. You have, you know, Robot the Bruce getting toppled onto its side, and of course Robot the Bruce later on, we have Chaos and Chaos 2. I wonder if that probably had an influence, perhaps. Roadblock, just, you know, Roadblock is such a difficult opponent to go up against, especially in the early days, because it was such a low wedge that could just scoop under, and it had that saw blade as well, rather interestingly. And of course Body Hammer, speedy around the arena, but it didn't really offer much offense, and it's no wonder it kind of came second in the end. I do find it rather ironic that Body Hammer, for that matter, you know, will become runners-up later on down the line with Pussycat. And of course, Robot the Bruce is also in this Chaos 2, you know, two-time champion. This is the way it starts, its first grand final. But yeah, like, overall, the grand final part of this is great. The Heat part of this is just sort of your run-of-the-mill Series 1 Heat. There's not really anything to write home about. Eubank the Mouse being a 1995 robot appearing, I guess, is pretty neat, but that's about it. Not really much to write home about. It is what it is. It's a final episode there. So let's have a look at what we get randomized next time around. So we're back with Series 4, and it's Series 4 Heat K next. A rather interesting Heat. I remember when I was younger, I really liked this Heat. Of course, rewatching it, it's not as positive in my opinion, but I still like it in a sort of nostalgic sense. But yes, we'll see you next time around.